I'm delighted to be here to talk to you today about the Ethics and Professional Skills module, or EPSM as it's commonly known. EPSM is such a valuable resource, not only to support your knowledge of the ethical principles specifically relevant to accountants, but also to enhance your employability and support the development of the professional skills you need to demonstrate in your exams and in the workplace. We're going to start by looking at where EPSM fits in as part of the current ACCA qualification. Here on the screen, we can see a graphic which may look very familiar to you, depending on how long you've been studying with us. It is, of course, all of the elements of the ACCA qualification on one page. You become an ACCA member through the demonstration of competencies in three specific areas: exams, experience, and EPSM. This is often known as the 3 E's. The diagram in front of you sets out these 3 E's of the ACCA qualification. The exams are shown in red and are grouped into stages. Firstly, foundations, then applied knowledge, applied skills, and finally, strategic professional. ACCA's practical experience requirement, or PER, of 3 years runs through the qualification and can be seen towards the top of the slide, and EPSM sits between applied skills and strategic professional exams, shown here in the dark grey box. Future members start their ACCA journey at different points, depending on their previous experience, and you may have started your ACCA journey with foundations, applied knowledge, applied skills, or even perhaps strategic professional. Now, EPSM can be purchased and completed at any time once you become a student of the ACCA qualification. However, there is a specific reason why it is shown where it is on this diagram between applied skills and strategic professional. This is because we strongly recommend that this is the optimum time to complete the module. There are 2 reasons for this. Firstly, there are technical elements of the module, which will be more straightforward for you if you've completed your applied skills exams first. And secondly, EPSM is, as we will see, specifically designed to support the step up to strategic professional studies. We therefore recommend that you complete EPSM after finishing the applied skills exams and before beginning your strategic professional exams. All this being said, do not worry if you've already started your strategic professional studies and are yet to complete EPSM. You can still complete the module now to support the exams you have left. If you've completed your strategic professional exams, first of all, congratulations. And remember, you will still need to complete EPSM in order to progress to membership. So let's take a look in detail how EPSM supports your strategic professional studies and exam success. The strategic professional exams are the final level of the ACCA qualification, and you will need to complete the 2 essentials exams, Strategic Business Reporting and Strategic Business Leader, shown here in red, as well as 2 of the 4 Strategic Professional Options exams, shown here in grey. So 4 exams in total. For those of you who have already started studying for these, you will have already realised they are quite different in style and demand from the applied skills exams. Applied skills exams focus on developing the strong, broad and practical knowledge essential for accountants working in any sector or industry. Marks are primarily awarded for demonstrating your knowledge and will all be for technical points rather than any being directly awarded for the skills demonstrated in your answers. There are no professional skills marks available. In strategic professional exams, you will firstly be expected to retain the knowledge you have gained at applied skills, particularly when progressing from an exam which underpins another, for example from TX to ATX. You will also need to expand this knowledge with more complex technical topics. However, there are other aspects of strategic professional exams which make them more challenging than applied skills. Firstly, the need to apply knowledge with an increasing real-world focus. Next, deeper consideration of ethical aspects of scenarios. And then the introduction of professional skills marks, rewarding you for how you have constructed and communicated your answer rather than technical marks for the technical knowledge you have demonstrated. EPSM is specifically designed to support you in tackling these key aspects of the strategic professional exams and therefore helping you to make a successful transition to strategic professional. Let's look at each of these areas in more detail. First of all, how does EPSM support you in applying your knowledge? Thinking about the general approach of strategic professional exams, whilst a small number of marks will be available for pure knowledge, the majority of marks available will be for application of your knowledge to real-world scenarios, requiring different skills to be used when compared with applied skills exams in order to demonstrate that you are both strategic and forward-thinking. Writing down what you know about a certain topic will not be enough. You must apply your knowledge to the scenario you're given, often needing to make recommendations on the best course of action or to reach conclusions based on complex workings. Much of EPSM is also based on real-world situations, placing you in the role of the decision maker and giving you an opportunity to practice applying your knowledge just as you will need to do in your strategic professional exams. You will need to make recommendations and reach sensible conclusions based on the information you're given. A key difference is that EPSM allows you to do this in a more relaxed environment where you can take your time, repeat sections if you wish to, and if you answer incorrectly, simply go back and have another go. Let's consider an example. In the first unit of EPSM, you will complete a case study where you are a financial accountant asked to make adjustments to your company's accounts. You are not entirely comfortable with doing this, and you must make a decision on whether to sign off the accounts despite your concerns or to speak out. You will meet your team of co-workers and be presented with the relevant facts. You must use the information given to decide on a course of action, for which you're then given feedback on your choice. The information is provided to you as a mix of videos, texts, emails, and pictures, making it really engaging to work through. In the screenshot from this case study shown on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the part where you meet your team, including your character, Ian Morton, who is a financial accountant. There's also Margaret Wilson, the CFO, and Eric Manning, the CEO. When you complete the module in your role as Ian, you will be told all the facts and opinions you need from the other characters involved to enable you to make a decision on whether you should sign off the accounts or not. Whether you make what is considered to be the right decision, you will be given feedback to help you learn the most you can from the exercise to help you deal with similar situations in the future. As you work through further similar exercises throughout the other units, you are building towards the Unit 8 case study. This is a complex, multi-stage scenario where you take on the role of Jamie Roberts, a professional accountant. In the course of the case study, you'll be leaving your job, applying for a new one, managing a corporate restructure, and devising a strategy to improve profitability, providing an excellent introduction to the wider, more detailed scenario questions seen in the strategic professional exams, particularly strategic business leader. The case study brings together many of the elements you've learned in the earlier units of the module, reconfirming your knowledge and asking you to apply it in a new scenario. Moving on to our next key element, strategic professional exams require you to demonstrate awareness of the ethical principles relevant for professional accountants and to apply them to realistic ethical dilemmas you may encounter in the workplace. Unit 1 of EPSM, Ethics and Professionalism, will introduce you to the broad ethical and professional values which underpin professional skills and behaviours. These values provide a moral compass for an accountant to help guide their professional behaviours. The unit explores the fundamental principles of ethical behaviour and how to be able to recognise and safeguard against ethical threats. As you work through this unit, you will consider the learning outcomes shown on the screen. Firstly, how to act professionally and ethically at work. Secondly, how to comply with rules and apply principles to changing situations. Next, how to adopt different ethical stances as appropriate in different contexts. And finally, how to apply the fundamental principles of ethical behaviour in the workplace. What you might notice about these learning outcomes is that they are not simply designed to teach you ethical principles as they apply to static examples. They're in fact designed to equip you with the skills you need to respond to difficult situations which you come across, whether that be in your strategic professional exams or in the workplace, meaning you can adapt to many nuanced situations rather than simply respond to a given list of typical ethical dilemmas. Application is the key. As a reflection of the importance of robust ethical behaviour to professional accountants, all of the strategic professional exams include marks relating to ethical principles, and you will be expected to apply these to real-world situations. For example, it may be that you or your firm is being asked to carry out immoral or potentially illegal actions, such as submitting false information to the tax authorities or allowing clients to keep money which doesn't belong to them. You may need to identify self-interest or self-review threats, or explain the potential consequences of unethical actions, including the implications for stakeholders and business performance. With solid preparation, these marks can be amongst the most straightforward ones to earn in a strategic professional exam, and by completing EPSM, you'll be making a great start in learning and applying the ethical principles you need. On the screen, I'm going to show you some examples of ethical requirements from strategic professional exams. First of all, one taken from the Advanced Financial Management exam. This is just the requirement, which asks you to consider the ethical implications of the approach taken to employee remuneration. If we were to go to the exhibit information, we would see the requirement is testing the ethical issues of paying staff below the basic wage and limiting rewards to full-time members of staff only. Then we have an example from the ATX exam, Advanced Tax, where we are required to provide advice on the ethical guidelines of using our experience with one client to advise another, so focusing on confidentiality. Finally, we have an example from strategic business reporting, where a new accountant is querying a big change in a provision in the company accounts. She is told by the finance director that such inquiries are pointless, and wasting time like this would not be looked upon favourably when it came to awarding pay rises and bonuses. So we can see just from these three examples that the scope of ethical issues tested is very wide and also replicates real-world situations. It will not be enough in strategic professional exams to simply write down everything you've learned about ethics. Adapting your knowledge to a given scenario, which could very well be one you haven't come across before, will be key. EPSM gives you a great foundation for this skill. A key difference in the Strategic Business Leader and the Strategic Professional Option exams is that they each have specific professional skills marks available, rewarding you for the way in which a question is answered and ensuring you develop the right blend of technical and professional skills. With 80 technical marks available and 20 professional skills marks, this means that 20% of your exam relies on how you demonstrate your knowledge and skills, rather than just the knowledge you have demonstrated. The skills assessed are analysis, evaluation, commercial acumen, skepticism, and communication. And the good news is that EPSM can support you in scoring well for all of these. Often you will develop these skills naturally as you work through the content of the module rather than working on them specifically, as they are interwoven into the learning and exercises you will need to complete. To give you a few examples, analysis and evaluation skills are developed throughout the module, but are particularly relevant to Unit 2 on personal effectiveness, in the consideration of how big data can be collected and analysed. Unit 4 on commercial awareness, where data analysis and manipulation is considered, and Unit 7 on data analytics. Commercial acumen also represents a key part of Unit 4, guiding you on how to improve your commercial awareness and business acumen, and how to use different analysis tools to assess businesses, including a case study on Apple. Unit 6 is called Innovation and Skepticism, so as you would expect, will provide you with an excellent basis for the skeptical thinking which will be required in the strategic professional exams, encouraging you to question whether solutions are suitable, feasible, and acceptable. Finally, we have the most important skill of communication. Not only are marks specifically allocated for this skill, but it is so important to help you present your knowledge in the clearest and most efficient possible way in your exams to gain the technical marks. Unsurprisingly, it can be found throughout EPSM, but is in particular focus in Unit 2 on personal effectiveness, which considers managing time and prioritising tasks and using spreadsheets effectively, and Unit 3 on communication and interpersonal skills, which covers communicating clearly, sensitively, and effectively via email, phone, and report writing. There is one final area which I want to draw your attention to. Given the strong links between EPSM and the strategic professional exams, the module includes an entire unit, Unit 9, dedicated to supporting this transition from applied skills to strategic professional exams. Unit 9 explains the link between EPSM and Strategic Business Leader and the other strategic professional exams, and how EPSM supports your learning at Strategic Professional. As shown by the graphic on screen, which is taken from the Unit 9 introduction, students who complete EPSM perform better at Strategic Professional. The unit gives a detailed overview of each Strategic Professional exam, including what each exam requires in terms of professionalism and how EPSM can help you prepare. The unit highlights the knowledge and skills in EPSM which most closely link to the content in the Strategic Professional exams, particularly Strategic Business Leader, but also the other Strategic Professional exams, and how to demonstrate general professional skills whilst demonstrating technical skills. It may be that right now you're waiting on your final applied skills results, meaning you're ready to move on to Strategic Professional. Or perhaps you've already started your Strategic Professional exams but have not done EPSM yet. If this is you, right now is a great time to tick EPSM off of your to-do list. Thank you for your attention on all the benefits of EPSM. I'm going to pass over to Kirsty now to cover the more practical aspects of completing the module.
So we've told you why and when you should be completing the Ethics and Professional Skills module. Now let's talk about how you can get started and what you can expect when you do. You can access EPSM by logging into your My ACCA account, navigating to My Qualification and Ethics, and then clicking on the Launch EPSM button. You'll need a credit or debit card ready to purchase the module the first time you access it. When you click the link to access EPSM for the first time, you'll be taken to the ACCA Learning platform, where you will need to select EPSM to take you to the course page. To purchase the module, click on Add to Cart. You'll then be able to pay for the module, accept the licensing agreement, and start working through the module. The module is designed to work on all devices, including smartphones, tablets, laptops, and desktops, but we recommend using a laptop or desktop device with a Chrome browser for optimal viewing. EPSM has 10 units in total. The first 7 units are described as learning units, so this is where you're going to do most of your learning. Everything you need is integrated into the module, so you won't need any additional materials for EPSM. No textbooks, no revision kits, no mock assessments. Each unit contains a mix of videos, learning resources and interactive quizzes, and each unit will have an end-of-unit assessment that you'll need to pass. If you don't pass the assessment on the first attempt, don't worry. You'll be able to retake it as many times as you need to. And also, don't worry about how many times you retake an assessment. There's no grading on the EPSM, so your final completion certificate won't tell an employer or anyone else how many times you've taken an assessment before passing. You'll have to complete Unit 1 first, including the end of unit assessment, and then Units 2 to 7 will unlock for you. You can attempt these in any order, but we do recommend that you work through them in numerical order. Once you've completed all of the learning units, then you'll be able to progress to the assessment and support units, starting with Units 8 and 9. Unit 8 is an integrated case study that brings together all the topics you'll have studied in the first 7 learning units. You'll face a scenario, and you'll have a series of tasks to complete where you'll base your decisions on what you've learned so far. Unit 8 also includes a presentation review exercise. You'll be given 2 draft PowerPoint presentations and asked to review them in line with some specified criteria. Unit 9 will explain how what you've learned in the EPSM links to and prepares you for the type of tasks you could face in the strategic professional exams. It will also talk about what professional skills are and how they're used in the workplace. This unit uses requirements from the specimen exams and recent past exams to illustrate how you can maximise your technical and professional marks in each of the strategic professional exams. So as we said before, it's really worthwhile doing this before you start studying for your first strategic professional exam. And finally, once you've completed Units 8 and 9, then you'll be able to access Unit 10, which is the final assessment. Unlike all of the other assessments so far, this is a timed assessment. You'll have 2 hours to complete the test, which will feature 14 questions from a dynamic question bank. You'll complete 2 objective test questions relating to each of the 7 learning units on the left-hand side. If you don't complete the test within the 2 hours, or if you don't submit all of the answers within the allocated time, then you'll need to start Unit 10 again from the beginning. And you'll need to achieve a mark of 50% overall to pass the test. But remember that if you do fail, you can retake the units and the tests again as many times as you need to until you're successful. There will be no additional resit fees, and your completion certificate will not make any reference to the number of attempts. All of the content in EPSM will be presented to you in an interactive style. That means there might be different ways for you to move through the content, for instance, viewing information on multiple tabs or moving over hotspots on an image to reveal more information. There will also be several types of activities that you'll encounter in the module. For instance, you might be asked to drag and drop answers to questions into drop zones, or answer more traditional multiple choice questions where you select the correct answer or answers from a set of options. You can see examples of all of these content types in the EPSM Quick Start Guide, which we've included in the resources for today's webinar. On average, it takes approximately 20 hours to complete the full module. That includes all of the integrated learning, quizzes and assessments that are included in the module. To get the most out of the module and set yourself up for success in your exams and the workplace, you should aim to fully engage with all of the content as you work through the module. Take your time to complete the activities, assessments and quizzes, as these will help to reinforce your learning. And then reflect on your learning at the end of each unit. Think about whether you've experienced situations where the skills you've learned might have helped you to do things differently. You don't need to complete the module all at once. In fact, we would highly recommend that you do not try and do that. We've seen that the module is broken down into units, so you can work through it 1 unit at a time. Each unit should take between 2 and 3 hours, so it's easy to work through a module in an evening or over the course of a weekend. And even if you need to stop partway through a unit, your progress will be saved automatically and you can pick up right where you left off. The only part of the module that has a fixed time limit is the final assessment, so make sure you set enough time aside to be able to focus on completing that within the 2-hour time limit. But if you do run out of time or you don't achieve 50% at the first attempt, remember that you have unlimited attempts with no additional fees. And no one but you will know how many attempts you've made to complete the module. When you've passed the final assessment, you'll be able to access the Next Steps folder where you can download your completion certificate and transcript.
Hello again everyone. I'm back to talk to you about the ACCA resources which are available to support you with EPSM, whether you're just getting started or are struggling to progress beyond a certain point. To support you, we've included some useful resources for you in the resource list for today's session. There's the EPSM syllabus document, which describes the content of the 10 units in detail. There's a handy quick start guide that will help you to access the module and explain some of the functionality, as well as some of the common questions students have as they work through the module. I'll show you more about this in a moment. There's also our EPSM on a page infographic, which has some handy information on how EPSM supports your strategic professional studies. We've also included links to some useful pages on the ACCA website. But what about if you need more help? If you're having trouble accessing EPSM or working with the functionality, the Quick Start Guide does cover this. But if you cannot find a resolution there, ACCA Connect will be able to help you with technical support to get you moving again. If you're struggling to progress with the content, do remember that the answers to the quizzes can always be found in the module content preceding the quiz. So it is always worth going back and reviewing the section or sections you've just worked through. Also, remember that you can attempt the quizzes and the final assessment as many times as you need to pass. There is no restriction on the number of attempts. If you need to, it's reasonable to approach your learning provider or even your peers for support, but bear in mind that this should be for guidance only. You should not ask anyone to provide you with the answers to the quizzes or the end of module assessment, and no one should offer to provide them to you either. This would be a breach of the ethics module regulations and guidelines. If you are studying with one of our approved learning partners, their tutors will have access to most of the EPSM content through our Educator Hub, so we'll be able to review the area you are asking them about. The exception to this is Unit 8, the Integrated Case Study, and Unit 10, the Final Assessment, which tutors cannot see. Full details of your responsibilities when engaging with the Ethics and Professional Skills module are available on our website, and we've provided a link to the relevant page in the resources for today's webinar. As promised, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the Quick Start Guide. As we said, we'll provide you with a link in the resource list, but you can also access the guide from within the module itself, so it's accessible whenever you might need it. On the slide is the introductory section of EPSM within ACCA's Ethics Learning Platform. This is the screen you will see when you log into EPSM. The link to the Quick Start Guide can be found about halfway down the page, shown here in the red box. The Quick Start Guide will introduce you to EPSM, both in terms of content, but also system requirements, how to move around the module, how to ensure you complete the work required, and also what will happen when you do complete the module. Whilst we advise that you read the guide before you start, you can also refer back to it at any point as you progress through the module. Lastly, there is a particular set of resources for EPSM which I want to draw your attention to before we finish. If you've not started EPSM yet, you won't need them for a while, but it is worth remembering them as you approach the later units of EPSM. We know from experience that students can typically work through the first 6 units without assistance, finding the questions straightforward, provided they've worked through the content thoroughly. However, certain elements of Unit 7 on data analytics and Unit 8, the integrated case study, can prove more difficult. To support students with these more demanding units, we have produced specific guidance which you can find on the ACCA website, shown here on the left-hand side of the screenshot on the slide. We'll put a link to this ACCA website page in the resource section. And you can see here, you've got support for Unit 7 and support for Unit 8 in that menu on the left-hand side. For both Unit 7 and 8, There is a dedicated page, and you can see the Unit 7 page on the slide now. Each page includes a topic explainer video where an expert tutor guides you through a similar exercise to the most challenging quiz in the unit, reinforcing the skills you need to answer the quiz questions correctly and keep making progress through the module. There are also top tips for each unit, focusing on the best way to approach the units in order to gain the most from them and complete them successfully. If you do find Unit 7 or 8 tough going when you get there, we suggest these resources should be your first port of call to get support. Thank you once again for your attention. We hope you found this session on EPSM both interesting and informative. We have some time now for any questions you may have on all things EPSM.